Aloha, everyone. Welcome. I'm very excited about today's class. So excited that I totally rearranged everything in the shrine with the help of Satyam and Arati, and asked you to do the same in your house to practice near a wall. We are going to be working towards handstand, but that's not why I'm excited. I'm excited because of our energetic theme of releasing doership and trying to find a sense of ease as we do challenging things. Today, handstand, but really as it applies in our life and in our practice off of the mat. So with that, let's begin. You can turn away from the wall and start to make your way onto your back. And just take a little test to make sure you can extend your arms overhead. So you might need to inch down. Maybe your heels are off of your yoga mat. That's okay. And then let yourself start to relax. Just feel what it's like to inhabit your body right now. Notice if there's areas of tension without judgment, but just like you're taking a before and after snapshot. So often we grip energetically, we grip physically, we grip mentally, and we waste a lot of energy and create a lot of suffering for ourselves. And when we can stop gripping so much, it's scary, but it's also very freeing. And so to experience this in a very simple way, start to play with squeezing your hands into fists, flexing your feet, squeezing your glutes, letting your shoulders come up towards your ears. Try to feel, maybe even squeeze your face like you're a little kid that's like crying. And then let everything go and feel that melting sensation. And do this a few times on your own. Just playing with this idea of consciously creating a lot of tension and then being really present in the moment when it all releases. And let that release be really slow and enjoy the space that's created. And repeat this a few times, and maybe you feel like you really need to scrunch up a lot, or maybe you just need the tiniest taste of the tension. You don't want to overdo it. I was scrunching up a lot and it felt really fun, but it also made my hands feel funny, like they couldn't really open fully after. So I'll leave it up to you how dramatic you want to be with this. The most important part is being in the sensation as you release, that softening, that melting. And the next time you let yourself melt, just stay in that softness. Make any adjustments to the angle of the legs, angle of the arms, so you can have more space through the whole body. And start to come into the breath flow. And imagine that same process happening with the breath. Imagine that you can release any tension or doership in the breath and feel that same melting, spacious sensation that you experienced physically, but now at this subtler pranic level. And then, believe it or not, the thoughts, the mind, is actually a deeper level of our being than the breath. So imagine this same process happening in the space behind the eyes. Just this softening. If you want to squinch up the face, you can, but you don't have to. You might even feel that mental tightness that is so common. And then let that ungrasp. Imagine the space of the forehead becoming as vast as the ocean view at Konalani that almost all of you have gotten to experience. Jay, you're going to have to come visit so that can become real for you too. And if at any time you need to back up and come back to the physical body or the breath and play with grasping and releasing on that level, this is your time to experiment and do what's useful for you. The next place we'll explore is the heart center. So you can bring the focus now down into the heart and try to feel that same space. Even visualize a little or big knot in the heart and then imagine it just unwinding and becoming smooth and even and spacious, just an infinite circle instead of a tangle. And then zoom out from all of those focal points and let yourself just be. Imagine all those layers or koshas becoming spacious, becoming relaxed, just letting energy start to flow, not needing to direct or control, just observing, allowing, being. And see if you can release even more. Notice if you've become aware of tension anywhere in any of those layers, and give yourself permission to use the breath, use the visualization to tense and ultimately release that space. And we're just going to stay in this space for one more minute. That's roughly 5 or 6 breaths. And we'll start to ever so gently move. You can snow angel the arms overhead and try to feel the floor underneath the arms as they circle, taking in the texture of your yoga mat, of your carpet, of your wood floor, whatever it may be. And once the hands make it overhead, let the wrists flex so that the palms come towards the floor, but this is or towards the wall, the imaginary floor, the future floor. This is deep wrist flexion, so if it doesn't feel good, it's fine to be on the fingertips, but I just want to play with a visualization of just imagine being this relaxed in a future handstand. And of course, there's going to be a lot more muscular exertion when you're balancing on your hands. But just imagine you could do this challenging feat from this spacious place. And we'll start to work through the physical layers of the body, creating more and more support, but trying to stay this spacious, this surrendered, and this relaxed. So let's experiment with that. Bend the knees, walking the soles of the feet in. Release the hands to the hip points. Let the fingers come to the soft tissue inside the bony landmark at the front of the pelvis. And just start with some pelvic tilts. Rocking the pelvis forward and back, letting the spine follow. Notice the gentle shifting on the craniofascia, the back of the skull. Make any adjustments to your body as you feel like you need more space in your neck, as you need more space in the feet, walking away from the hips. Just try to feel the clues that your body's giving you of what it wants and respond to them. You can start to sync this movement with your breath, inhaling as the pelvis tilts forward. That's the one that's creating the big arch. And exhaling as the pelvis rocks back. That's the one that's flattening the spine. And try to feel as you exhale and the spine flattens, the muscles that are drawing in towards the spine, the muscles that are becoming taut underneath your fingertips. These are part of your deep core, namely transversus abdominis, one of your main deep core muscles. Let the rocking of the pelvis get smaller and smaller, but you're keeping it with the breath, which means you have to move quite slowly to keep it synced with the breath. And see if, even though the movements are smaller, if you can still feel that deep core brightening underneath the fingertips, or maybe you can even feel it from the inside out. And the next time the pelvis rocks back and the spine flattens, pause there and see if you can breathe smoothly without releasing that sense of support and strength. And you'll feel the belly expand, but it'll be pressing into this muscular support, so it might not expand as much as it would if you were totally relaxed. Yeah. And then with your next exhale, start to blow out of the mouth, making this noise, shh, and notice what that does for the transversus abdominis. Shh, there's kind of like a condensing and tightening. Try that a couple of times. Shh. And just notice if that helps you engage this muscle, if it helps you flatten the spine without being forceful. And then resume your natural breath, but see if you can still feel almost that energetic quality of the shushing exhale. Without letting the spine arc, without letting the belly protrude, lift one foot so the shin is parallel, and then lift the other, and then set one foot down, set the other one down. If that was too much, you can just lift one leg at a time and then switch. And we'll experiment with this for at least a minute. And if you notice that it's hard to maintain, come back to the pelvic tilts, come back to the shushing, engage that transverse abdominis, and just notice the work required as one or both legs lift. And be patient. This is really hard for a lot of people, so if you're one of those people, you're not alone, and it just means this is great homework. And the next time the feet come down, try to keep the deep core engaged, but play with extending the legs forward. And I actually find it surprisingly challenging to keep the pelvis neutral here and to keep the low back a little flatter than usual with the legs extended. It's like the extension of the legs wants to tip the pelvis forward. So just notice that work. And feel that condensing at the core. Keep the fingertips on the hips and do another one of those shushing exhales. Shh. Notice the relationship of the pelvis and the rib cage here. For me, this is the absolute hardest part of a handstand. It's keeping this relationship with my pelvis and my rib cage. And play with now returning to that lying down handstand position with the arms overhead, and as the arms extend, or actually as the shoulders flex overhead, it's going to be even more challenging to maintain this neutral. So just notice that. And then this time, if the hands and shoulders allow, play with pushing the hands into the wall behind you, and notice if you can increase the work in your core, right? As you push the hands overhead, notice if that brightness at your center can dial up a few notches. If you want to keep with the shushing exhale, you can. Play with flex pointing the feet, so that's pressing out through the balls of the feet like little Barbie feet. And again, notice if your spine and pelvis are still neutral, and if they're not, try to find that neutral. One last moment here, and again, you're working, your core is on, but notice the sense of ease, right? There's no gripping in the mind, there's no tensing of the superficial muscles. You're supported from the inside out. And bend the knee that's further away from the screen and press into it to roll onto your side. Gently start to press up, and then bring the feet underneath you, coming into a kneeling position. And take a moment to grab either a block or your blanket. We're going to be kneeling for a few moments, and I want this to be really comfortable. So just elevate your hips on something or a couple of somethings. Take a moment to just notice what it feels like to be upright. We did a lot of subtle work, and just notice if you feel different in your body. And then let's keep playing with this awareness of the pelvis and the rib cage. So start by rocking the pelvis forward, and notice how the spine starts to arch. And you can gently allow the head to follow, but just make sure there's no compression in the back of the neck. And so here, there's more space between the rib cage and the belly. And now start to go the opposite direction, so rolling forward, and notice how there's condensing between the rib cage and the pelvis. Do a few of these, and let's sync it with our breath. Let's start with the classic inhaling to expand and exhaling to condense. And notice if your tendency is to go to your end range and you're feeling a little bit of tension in the neck or the low back, and see if you can find that sense of ease. At any point in this whole class or ever, you're welcome to do that shushing exhale to connect with the transversus abdominis. And come back to center, pause for a moment, then we'll switch the patterning of our breath. So take an inhale, and then with your next exhale, start to rock the pelvis forward, opening, and notice how the exhale almost limits this movement slightly. And then inhale for the round, and really breathe into the back of the body. And now start to play with this reverse breathing pattern. And notice how the exhale helps you feel more connected between the rib cage and the pelvis as you go into that arching movement. And then let the movement get smaller and smaller, which means moving slower and slower. And the goal is to eventually find neutral here while feeling that exhale, deep core work in the front of the body. So as you round forward on the inhale, imagine you're almost like doing a crunch and you're feeling the front of the body shorten, and then keep that connection as you exhale back up. So you're feeling the front of the body working, you're feeling the deep core coming online. The exhale might give you a little more access to awareness of the pelvic floor and the diaphragm. And the next time you come up, pause there and bring your hands to your rib cage, bring your hands to your pelvis, just to almost give yourself a little massage and say like, okay, is the orientation, is the connection between my rib cage and my pelvis actually what I thought it was when I was feeling? Right? I noticed like, oh, my ribs were definitely a little more flared than I thought. That's my tendency. That might not be yours. And just take one more, you can use your hands or not, to find what feels like neutral, where the front of the body is connected, the pelvis is level, and the spine is long. And then from here, oh, thank you, Satyam put a monitor in front of me, so now I can see your beautiful faces and look at you at the same time. So from here, thanks, Satyam, start to lift the arms, and I'm going to turn to the side. There's a tendency when you lift the arms for this to happen, right? Our priority is to feel this strong neutral that you've created, so it might mean the arms stop here. Right? So notice if you're like, oh, I get about here and I want to do this, and really try to play with where you are today. And let's take a couple pulses like that. Let's see. Stay neutral with the spine, but just release the arms, and then use the exhale to lift them overhead. And then the inhale will release, and the exhale will lift. And just be patient. If the arms aren't coming all the way overhead, that is totally fine. A good thing to know, right? You can still attempt a handstand later, but you might not want to. We'll see. And the next time the hands come overhead or wherever they're coming for you, flex the wrists and imagine pressing into the invisible floor underneath your hands, and see if you can lengthen through the torso and feel all those core muscles working a little bit harder. Breathe, and even though you're working harder, see if you can relax and see if you can release any unnecessary tension. A little bit of tension's good. A little bit of tension's valuable, right? But too much is not. Okay, and we can release that down and shake it out a little bit, and imagine not just releasing physical tension, but any mental tension, any energetic tension. Shake it out, let it go. And then let's come up to kneeling and grab your blanket and place it underneath the knees. Feel free to grab a sip of water. Okay. So I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see this. We want knees, shoulders, and knees, hips, and shoulders in one straight line. And then we'll bend the knees just to rock back in our reverse Nordic. And I like to keep my hands at my pelvis here. And you'll feel that same brightening that we were working with on the back underneath the fingertips. And if you're not, I recommend exhaling as you rock back. You can use that audible exhale and not going as far, right? Because we want the deep core to do this work. And sometimes when we go further than the deep core can support, the superficial muscles turn on and we don't get any of that deep benefit. In fact, we just create tension. And then the next time you start to float up, try stepping 1 foot forward. And then come back and repeat that a couple of times. And the arms can stay at the hips. You can also start to reach them overhead as you rock back and then let them drop as you come forward. And just play with this weight shifting, but the most important thing is that you're feeling the deep core work. So if the stepping the foot forward is creating tension, just come up and slowly step it forward. Maybe take a moment to balance on that one knee. So this is your first test, right? It's like if you're doing something and it's creating tension, how can you find your pathway through? Might look different than mine. And we just want to keep letting those deep core muscles support us. The next time the left foot's in front, pause there. And walk it a little further to the left. You may want blocks here, or you can just bring your hands to the floor. Let's just start to relax through the legs, through the pelvis. Imagine drawing a big circle on the floor with your tailbone. And notice as you relax if your awareness of your breath can change a little bit. Try to breathe into the base of the pelvis, the back of the pelvis. Because we have a challenging pose for the shoulders today, be really mindful of everything you do with your hands, with your wrists, with your shoulders, just to conserve your energy, right? So maybe keep a little extra weight in the legs and be a little gentler in the arms. Today's class, I think, is going to be surprisingly gentle because we don't want to overexert. We want to save our power for our more challenging movement later. We're being skillful with our energy. And center the pelvis. Press down into the back knee and the front foot and start to round the spine. Inhale to breathe in through the back of the body. As you exhale, send the pelvis forward, slowly stacking one vertebra at a time, enjoying the ride up. And then reach the right arm across the body. Hold on to the left side of the rib cage. Keep the torso pretty neutral here. And then just start to reach the left hand forward and slide it back. Do this a few times and try to feel how the shoulder blade slides wide on the rib cage as you reach forward and then slides back. The next time the shoulder blade slides wide, pause there and start to circle the arm up and overhead, letting the shoulder blade glide upward. And then anchor the shoulder blade down and let it glide up. And just try to feel this gentle push and pull. And then let the movement get smaller and smaller so you're not anchoring all the way down, you're not lifting all the way up, but you're finding the suppleness of the middle ground. Right? A lot of times when we do handstands, people really anchor their shoulders and create a lot of tension. We want like a squishiness, a springiness between the shoulder blade and the rib cage. The next time the shoulder blade slides up, flip the palm away. You're not going to go very far here, at least I'm not going to, but start to reach the hand up and back, letting the shoulder blade start to glide down the rib cage. And then once the hand reaches down, we're going to reverse it. So instead of doing a full circle, you go back the way you came. When you get to the top, let the palm turn forward or in, and then come all the way down. And just take a couple of these movements to wake up more awareness in the muscles between the shoulder blade and the rib cage. Now, the trickiest thing here, I think, is the flipping of the palm, so that you get more rotation through the arms. So the palm is facing in for the first half and out for the second half. And the next time the arm circles forward, interlace the hands. Imagine you're like trying to get out of a pool. Press your hands down on the edge of the pool and feel how the shoulder blades wrap down and wide on the rib cage. Take a couple of those. tuck the back toes under. The next time you press to get out of the pool, shift your weight into the front leg and see if you can lift the back knee. If you can't, that's okay. It's just an experiment, but just notice if that's possible. Nice. Take a breath here. And then set the back knee down. Let the arms lift overhead and take a big spacious Anjaneyasana, big circle with the arms. And then place the hands down to the floor or the blocks. Bring that leg in. And then let's press back into Bhaktasana. If your hands are on blocks, I recommend lowering them to the lowest height or bringing one underneath the forehead. You're welcome to sway from side to side if that feels good, or just enjoy some stillness. I'm noticing that the hands on the blocks was a bit much for me, so if you're feeling that, just walk the blocks a little closer to the shoulders. And slowly come back up to your high kneel, and we'll do that on the second side, starting with the reverse Nordics. So remember, most important thing here is that your body stays in a straight line and you're just rocking forward and back. Exhaling back can help. Fingertips can be on the hips if that gives you more awareness. Try to stay long through the neck as you do this. See if the crown of the head can lengthen up towards the corner where the ceiling meets the wall behind you. And then start to add on those footsteps with as little doership as possible. If you want to add in the arms, you can. And the next time the right foot steps, pause there, walk it over to the right option for the blocks. And let everything go. All the core work really draws the inner thighs and the pelvic floor up. And so let this feel like you can let that all go and be really soft and spacious at your base. Start to draw those circles. You don't want to feel any pressure in the hip socket. So if you're too soft, it can create some tension in the front of the hip socket. So there should be some support, but it should feel really relaxed and fluid and easy, just like your water flowing effortlessly. Bring some awareness to what the hands are doing, right? Remember, you want to save your upper body so you can use it, but don't abuse it. And then bring the pelvis to center. Start to press the hands down into the blocks to round the spine. And then push evenly into back knee and front foot to slowly roll up. Notice any sense of spaciousness in the front of the thigh and the hip. And then bring the left hand across the body to the rib cage. Turn the right palm to face the left side and start to reach the arm forward and back. And try to feel what the shoulder blade is doing here. Sometimes closing the eyes can help. You could even bring the hand to the shoulder blade if you're having trouble feeling what's happening. That's totally fine. The next time everything slides forward, circle the arm up. Same thing, up and overhead. And remember, this is where we're going to be using our arms for our handstand. And we don't want any tension up in the shoulder. We don't want any rigidity down in the rib cage. So try to feel that space in the middle. It's sort of like that Goldilocks moment of just right. It's not too far up. It's not too far down. The next time the arm slides up, flip the palm away and start to circle away from you. And just make sure you're not creating any tension in the shoulder joint by reaching too far back. When you get to the bottom, you'll reverse direction. So you'll circle up, and at the top, palm turns in. And just take a couple of these. Make sure you're breathing. And just try to feel how the movement of the arm relates to the shoulder blade and how the shoulder blade relates to the rib cage. And the next time the arm comes forward, relax the arms down and just take one nice, easy Anjaneyasana. Let the arms be as spacious as they want to be as relaxed as possible through the shoulders. You can even do this cool thing that I'm doing. The wave. I don't know what this is called. Maybe the rib cage can get involved a little bit, maybe even the hips. And then release the hands down. Do a couple of the get out of the pool moments. And the next time the shoulder blades are sliding down and wide, tuck the back toes, shift the weight forward, and see if that back knee can lift. And then release the back knee down, release the hands to floor or block, and take one moment. This time palms face up. Option for the block underneath the forehead. And try to connect to that energy from the beginning of class, that spaciousness, the releasing of tension. Maybe you can do it with the breath. You can even grip the hands and release whatever helps you. Just let everything go for a moment. Okay, let's roll up, move the blocks off to the side, move the blanket off to the side, and we'll be coming onto our bellies at the wall. So I know it's going to be a little tricky to see me here. We're not doing anything too fancy, so I think it'll be easy to follow along. We're doing a face down handstand now. And so, Satyam calls this a face plant. And so bring the palms to the wall. And again, just notice how the flexion is feeling in the wrists, and you can be gentle here. And then try to feel what's happening between the rib cage and the pelvis, just like we explored in our different orientations. See if you can start to rock through the pelvis and find that sense of integration through the front of the body. Notice a sense of condensing. And when you find it, even though it's at first happens through the front of the body, it emanates on the side body, down into the legs, up into the shoulders. Once you find that, just breathe. You can play with pressing the hands a little bit more into the wall as long as that feels okay. Notice how that might encourage the shoulder blades to slide up towards the wall, just like we practiced. Letting the shoulder blades gravitate away from the rib cage is totally safe. And then lift one leg and cross it over the other leg without letting the hands leave the wall, and just feel the space start to peel the hip open, and feel how that leg reaching pulls on the shoulder. See if you can keep your neutral pelvis and spine. And come back through center and go the other way. And we're just going to take a few of these from side to side, getting really interested in how the arm is connected to the axial skeleton and down into the legs. And we're eventually going to be rolling onto the back. So if you're solo, you can roll whichever way has the most space. For Konalani, let's say let's all roll to the left. I think you all have to roll the same way or it might get weird. And then we'll pause for a moment on the back. Just like we did before, take a moment to have this backwards handstand. And then we'll do one of my favorite core exercises. It's a little bit tricky, so you might need to observe me for a moment. So the legs are going to lift, and then you'll curl up like you would for a crunch to condense the front of the body, but then the legs lower, so you're like the bottom of a rocking horse, and then you keep that shape as you rock forward and back, so nothing changes in the hips. Sometimes people kind of just move their legs around. We want to keep the whole body stiff, and that's what makes this really hard. If you need to take a break, you can just come into the reclined handstand. And let's all release. Cross the outside leg over to roll back onto the belly. And then press the hands underneath the shoulders and push up to tabletop. From tabletop, let's start to wake up the hands a little bit. You can turn 3/4 towards me so you can see me better. Start to press into the hands, jumping. Push off the fingers. And notice how that really enlivens the hands. Try to bring a little extra awareness to the outside of the hands. And the most important thing here is that you're feeling how your core is supporting you, right? You don't want to feel any jarring in the shoulders. It should feel like as you jump up, everything goes into your core. And the next time the hands come down, slide the right leg back, reach the left arm forward, and take a moment to stretch the hand and leg apart. Oh, I forgot one thing. So we don't want to go 3/4 because we want to push that hand into the wall. Sorry. Turn back to the wall now that you know what's happening. Push the left hand into the wall and notice how much you can reach the right heel away. And then switch sides. And then release all of that down and send the hips back to the heels. Take one moment to melt the forehead and massage the wrists by rolling them in and out, pressing them down into your mat to separate all the bones that make up the wrist, massaging the soft tissue. And then roll up to a high kneel. So we're going to be playing with the movement where we rock forward and step the foot forward. And so take a couple practices of that. And start to feel how the momentum is really sending you forward. This time, try to keep the hands overhead and see if you can bounce forward into the wall. Yeah, all the way. So as you bounce forward into the wall, let the back leg lift like Virabhadrasana. There you go. And so once you're lifted, press the hands into the wall. You might need to inch away a little bit or inch forward a little bit and try to feel a straight line from your hands to your foot. And if your foot's down a little bit, just walk your hands up a little bit. So it's okay if you're not a T shape, but try to find that straight line. Take one breath here. Bend the elbows a little bit. And then push off the wall so you can bring the back foot down. Turn all 10 toes towards the side and relax the arms down. Bend the knee that's away from the wall and just let the arms swing a couple of times. This is our counter pose, so that after doing the shoulder work, that's going to turn into handstand in a moment, you take a little break, right? We're going to be repeating this sequence, but handstand's going to be, oh yeah, cool, good idea, Kirtana. Yeah, take a couple of those springs and then let it go. And remember, be really gentle with the shoulders because we're saving them for the big movement. So less is more. The next time the arms swing, stay there. And then push into that back leg to slowly come up. Turn the other foot towards the wall. Turn the back foot in just a little bit. And pause in Vira 2 with the arms heavy. Take a couple of breaths here. Notice what the pelvis and rib cage are doing. Notice if you're getting more confident in that neutral position. Let the tailbone be heavy. And then push into the back toes to slowly square towards the wall. We're going to do the same thing from the second side. If it was not comfortable for you to do this transition, you can stay high and just switch the legs and practice that transition from upright. If you liked the kneeling launch, come back to kneeling and we'll do it again. So from kneeling, you'll lean back, reach the arms overhead, and step the other leg forward, bouncing forward into the wall. If you're a little close, you can adjust where the feet are. Oops, I did the same leg again. If you did that, you have to come back down and try again. And then take your bounces, and then let the back foot go, turn away, and let the arms swing. And then when you're ready, you'll go back to the bounce. And then back to the arm swing. And then after the next arm swing, we'll take a moment into Virabhadrasana 2. So the back foot turns a little, the front foot turns all the way towards the wall. Neutral pelvis, neutral spine. Arms hang heavy. I always imagine I have like big gorilla arms with huge biceps right now. You might feel that blood flow. And then lift the back heel, square the body towards the mat. You can release the hands down and step back to plank. One last handstand prep moment. So this is really challenging. So you can always go back to the opposite arm and leg that we did before, or stay in plank and try doing opposite arm and leg. You can always bring your hand to the wall and imagine you're in a handstand. It takes like this much balance. And then if that went okay, do the other side. Otherwise, opposite arm and leg with the knee down is totally fine. And try to feel how the arm that's pushing into the wall ahead of you is connected to the leg that's lifting. And then release. And knees down. Start to circle the shoulders forward. And notice when the shoulders come forward, you need to grip the fingertips a little bit extra. So when you're coming into a handstand, this moment where the shoulders come forward of the wrists is really important, like the tension that's in the arms right now and the work that's in the fingers. So even though the shoulders will be stacked over the wrists, you're going to feel this kind of work in the wrists, in the hands. And let's take one last pause before we try. So you can come into Bhaktasana, you can come into down on the belly, and visualize yourself launching into a weightless handstand. Feel super supported, super safe, super light. Maybe even visualize yourself smiling there. The neutral pelvis and spine and such a strong core. And of course, this pose is completely optional. And so if you're not excited to do handstand, don't do it. If it's not fun, better left undone. You can do the sequence just as we did it before, where you launch into that Virabhadrasana 3 with the hands on the wall. That's just perfect. And if you want to go for it, I'll do a quick demo and then you'll have some time to play. So when you're ready, start to press up to a high kneel. Turn to face me and take a moment just to make sure you're in neutral pelvis, neutral spine. Don't max out your shoulders here, but take a moment here and then release whenever you feel like you need a break as I do this demo. So we are going to be doing that same movement, the rock back into the step forward, but instead of going into the wall like we did before, we're going to be planting the hands down and using all of that momentum to kick up. So it's going to look like this. And you can play with the wall if you need to. And breathe. Try to find that neutral. And then when you're ready to come down, one leg, then the other, and then turn away, just like we practiced. And let the arms swing. Let all the tension go. Unlike what we practiced, you're not going to do it again and again. You're only allowed one try at a time. And then you have to do a Virabhadrasana too, without the shoulders, to give them a break. And then if you want to go for it again, come down to plank and start from the second side. And it might sound annoying, but if there's one thing I've learned, it's that doing too many handstands in a row, they just get worse and worse. But if you can give yourself that spaciousness where you're pausing, they'll get better, right? So you get one try, and then when that's done, the legs come down, you take your break, as many swings as you need, little Vira 2, and then you prepare to do it on the other side. And if you're not going for the handstand, that's totally fine. You just play with the launching and play with this version of handstand, which is a very tricky advanced pose as well. Virabhadrasana 3 with the arms overhead is still a peak pose. So I'll talk you through it if you need guidance. If you feel like you've got it, just ignore me and just have fun. Be safe. Breathe. Remember, if you're creating tension, you're not doing the goal. And so I'm just glancing around. Nice, Arti. I think that's your best handstand, so you don't get your money back. Nice mandatory arm swings. Nice, Mom. I'm glad you're practicing that core work. And just let me know if you need a little guidance. So it goes from the lean back to the step forward spring. And you can totally try a normal handstand. I like the spring because I find when I get that much power, it's really easy to decompress all my joints as I go into the air. But if while you're super warmed up, you just want to go for your classic way that you come into a handstand, I will not judge you. Nice kirtana. And I want everyone to have lots of time to play because we took a very long time to warm up for this. The next thing that we're doing is legs up the wall. So if you need a break and you want to meet there, I recommend taking a blanket, placing your hips up on the blanket and placing your legs up the wall. If you've got a strap, I recommend the strap around the thighs so that they are easy to support. So you just place the loop of your strap around your thighs. And we'll meet you there in a moment, but handstanders, keep handstanding. And as long as the body's warm, if there's something else that, nice Prem, way to go, that your body's craving that you kind of want to explore, go for it. Yeah, I see a pinch of Mayurasana in the house. Nice, Satyam. Okay, if you're still going for it, maybe start thinking about winding down, but this is your party. So, oh, even better, Prem, nice. Wow, Artie, was that the best ever? 2 thumbs up, yes. Just in case anyone needed to hear the restorative moment again, sometimes it's nice to have a blanket to elevate the pelvis and then a strap looped around the thighs. And then be far enough away from the wall that you can let the knees bend in case that's more comfortable for your hamstrings. And you can be still, especially if you've already been here for a while. If you want to do a little therapy for the arms and the wrists, you can just gently rotate the arms open and close, massaging the front and the back of the wrists. And then play with letting the arms slowly lift like a snow angel. And so there's 2 things happening. The arms are abducting, but then you're also doing some internal and external rotation just to massage the front, the back, the sides of the arms, the shoulders, the hands, the wrists. And anything that feels good is fair game here. And then eventually finding stillness and just observing the body. Coming back to that possibility of releasing all the tension. And feeling very spacious. And start to wiggle the hips from side to side, massaging the sacrum, letting the spine wiggle a little bit. And start to inch your pelvis away from the wall so you have at least a foot between your hips and the wall. And then bend the knees, place the soles of the feet on the floor, and ever so gently press the feet into the wall. And just notice that gentle engagement through the legs. You can let the spine, the pelvis tip back, which is going to flatten the spine. And then slowly keep pressing the feet into the wall and lift one vertebra at a time. You don't have to go very high here, but let this be a massage for the spine. You can lower the hips back down, lift them back up, stay high. You can sway a little bit. Just make sure you keep the gaze up. This is a modified shoulder stand. I don't do shoulder stand in my practice, but boy, do I love this modification. You get all the benefits of the inversion and all of the massaging of the traps and lengthening of the traps without any strain in the head, neck, and shoulders. If you would like to press the legs into the strap a little bit, that can turn on some different muscles and feel nice. Just don't press very hard. You want it to be really gentle. I like to do it because it helps me feel my glutes and feel a little more stability in my pelvis. And then relax the hips down. Let the legs extend for one moment just to give them a break before our next movement. And start to snow angel the arms overhead and then interlace the hands, bend the elbows, and bring the palms towards the top of the head. Gently press the crown of the head into the hands to lengthen the neck, and press the hands into the crown of the head to allow the shoulders and chest to open. Take a couple of breaths. And then flip the palms away from you, keeping the elbows bent. Bend the knees, and now let the feet hover away from the wall so they're almost pointed towards the ceiling. And use your next exhale to slowly extend through the legs and press the hands away so the arms extend. And then inhale, let everything bend. And then exhale to kick and extend. And repeat this several times and try to feel how the lengthening of the arms and legs connects at the low back. You can feel the whole posterior chain working together, finding that deep condensing at your core that we've been exploring all of class. And then you can release the arms, and it's up to you if you want to take Shavasana with legs up the wall, you can. At this point, I'm really feeling like I want some space, so feel free. Actually, the strap on the legs can be nice in Shavasana, but wiggle away from the wall and readjust your blanket so it supports the backs of the knees. And then let yourself find your comfortable Shavasana. And let everything relax. You can wiggle around a little bit. And if you liked the exercise that we did at the beginning, you're welcome to do that, flexing through the body and then releasing. And do that as many times as you want. And I'm not going to talk through the whole pathway because I think having silence in Shavasana is nice. But if you liked the pathway, the next one was softening through the breath, softening through the forehead, and then softening through the heart. And we'll rest here for the next 10 minutes or so. Let yourself just be. Observe your state of being and notice if there's any sense of spaciousness in any or all of the layers we've focused on. And start to visualize yourself in the perfect manifestation of that spaciousness. Relaxed, content in the physical body, in the breath, in the mind, and in the heart. Imagine yourself glowing with the radiance of your inner self, that beaming quality that we've all experienced. And imagine that perfect version of you floating above you, tethered by a golden thread to the crown of your head. Take your time starting to make any waking movements, starting to travel up towards your meditation seat while maintaining that visualization or maybe that awareness of our highest self. And take your time setting up your meditation seat and trying to find that balance of the deep support that we've cultivated that allows for this even deeper sense of spaciousness. And first, notice the physical body. Think the meditation seat is a harder asana than our handstand. And so, notice how your physical practice has prepared you to be supported here. And then give yourself the opportunity to relax. It's not quite slouching, but it's not quite a perfectly tall spine. Somewhere buoyant in the middle of the two. And start to feel the breath and notice after 82 minutes of practice if the breath is spacious and natural, if it's a little easier to observe without controlling. And notice the mind. Perhaps the thoughts are there as usual, yet there is space between you, the real you, and those thoughts. Or maybe even a quietness. And finally, let your awareness rest in the heart. Breathe into that space. Feel the physical space. And then as you soften and relax, become aware of the deeper layer of the heart, the radiance of the inner self. You might even take a moment again to visualize that perfect form of you floating about a foot above the crown of your head. And for the last 5 minutes of class, see how relaxed and spacious you can be. Can attach any of our lineage mantras to the breath. Can softly bring hands to heart center. And take a couple of breaths and just observe yourself. Feel the seed planted from class that as you go through the challenges of your life, you can use right effort instead of a force or a gripping that creates extra tension and suffering. And see what happens. Hope you had your best handstand. Namaste. Thanks for coming, everybody. Way to go, Mom. It's 9:30 in Chicago. You hung in there. Think you're going to sleep really well. Sorry, the computer's not, or our TV's not unmuted, so I couldn't hear that. Oh, Satyam's. There you are.
I just thought I took a nap.
Oh, I hope it was just a pre-sleep warm-up.
No, I always sleep good on Tuesday nights.
Yay!
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
You're welcome.